I want everybody to get up off your seat and get your arms together and your hands together and give me some of that old soul clapping. You didn't have to love me like you did, but you did, but you did. And I thank you. You didn't have to squeeze me like you did, but you did, but you did. And I thank you. If you took your love somewhere else, I wouldn't know what it meant to be loved to death. You make me feel like I've never felt a kiss is so good I have to holler for help. You didn't have to squeeze me like you did, but you did, but you did. And I thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this gathering of Journey Imperfect Faith community. My name is Susan, and I'm a journeyer. You are welcome here in this virtual gathering, no matter your politics, your background or beliefs, your skin color, your sexuality, your nationality, the state you are in, what you struggle with, what you have joy around. You are God's beloved. Wherever you are and whoever you are in this moment, you are welcome here. I invite you today to consider how you can financially give to Journey and its work in the world. We give away 10% of the money that comes in to people in need and causes that advance our missions of compassion, justice, and spirit. If you have any questions about Journey, please go to our website, journeyifc.com. Today we are continuing our series called Rise Up with a gathering called Thank. When we are afraid, under stress, unsure, or feeling anger, it can be very hard to express gratitude. Gratitude requires perspective, the awareness that we have many things to celebrate and be thankful for, regardless of the cares of the moment we are in. But there is great power in giving thanks to God, to our friends and teachers and helpers, to experiences, to lessons learned. Jesus told his people that when they are working to bring what is good into reality, they will discover that they have everything they need and more. I ask you to stop wherever you are, relax, open your hands, your mind, and your heart. Let's breathe for a moment, opening ourselves to God's loving presence. Once more. Again, welcome to this gathering. Amen.
Gratitude is absolutely central to faith. One of the moments that caused me to understand that at a new level was when I realized the root word for gratitude in both Greek and in Latin is grace. So in Greek it's charis, and then in Latin it's gratia. And so the root word for gratitude is also the root word for grace. It's also the root word for gifts. And so these three things are, in a sense, utterly indistinguishable. As soon as you are talking about faith, we're talking about the territory of grace and gifts, and then our response to that, gratitude. And you can use the same exact word in those two amazing ancient languages, which formed so much of the basis of Christian theology. You use the exact same word to describe all of that. And so if we talk about faith being grace alone, grace, free gifts with no strings attached, we are really talking about the flow of gratia, the throw of charis from God. And that results in a return, not in a sense of debt. It's not a debt that we have to discharge, but when we realize that that kind of grace, that those kinds of gifts have flooded into our lives, the natural response is the outflowing of love. So that's our gratitude, is that outflowing of love that's expressed toward God and our neighbor. So if you can't understand the centrality of gratitude to faith, you probably missed what faith really is.
What is faith?
Well, faith is the ability to trust and to live in that vision of grace. That grace is truly all that there is. That grace flows from the deepest abundance of God, the deepest abundance of creation. That it is the truest nature of things. And sometimes that's very hard to see because the episodes of our lives obscure that, whether they are episodes of violence or victimization or suffering or of our own stupidity, that can obscure the reality of gifts and grace. But as Scripture itself says, in all things give thanks. It doesn't say for all things give thanks. Don't give thanks for the violence. Don't give thanks for your stupidity. Don't give thanks for your poverty. But it says in all things there is gratitude. There's thanks. There's gratia. There's charis. And so our capacity to know that and to act out of that, the in all things, there is grace. There is gratitude, beyond the immediate pain of our own lives. That's what faith is.
What does gratitude have to do with prayer and worship?
Yeah, one of the things that is important to realize is that I think we have a tendency to want to give thanks for stuff. And every time we say, "Oh, thank you that I got enough money to pay the water bill this month," or "Thank you that some unexpected gift arrived to me that made my life materially better," or "Thank you for the fact that I have a beautiful house." We should say thank you for all of those things, but in the United States in particular, we have a tendency to think that that's all you give thanks for, is material blessings or well-being. So health and wellness becomes our main template for saying thank you. That's not bad, but it's not the whole story. And so, but as soon as we turn it into health and wealth, we basically turned it into an economic vision of gratitude. And gratitude is far more than that. Gratitude is a disposition of our connection to one another, of our stewardship for the good gifts of the earth, of our ability to care and to give away gifts of our own lives. And so it's gratitude sometimes arrives on our doorstep as an economic blessing, but it should immediately take us it should take us as we grow through life to a place of far more depth than that, and realize that gifts are more than just money or health. Gifts are all kinds of things, and that those gifts show up and do cause our lives to be blessed, and we are called to pass them on to other people. You know, they can be as little as a smile or a nod on a day that you're feeling bad. That's a gift too, and there's nothing economic about it. And so being able to recognize what our gifts on any given day of our lives, and to feel the connection that those gifts provide for us is truly a good way to live.
Thanks for the boogie ride. I'm more than gratified. satisfied. I'm really satisfied, which only goes to prove you don't know until you glide in.
Did you know that God made us? Every boy and girl. Did you know that God...
I tell you not to worry about your life. Don't worry about having something to eat, or drink, or wear. Isn't life more important than food or clothing?
Did you know that God cares for us? How much I'll tell you now.
Look at the birds in the sky. They don't plant or harvest. They don't even store grains in barns. Yet your Father in heaven takes care of them. Aren't you worth more than the birds? Can worry make you live longer?
Did you know that God made the grass?
Why worry about clothes? Look how the wild flowers grow. They don't work hard to make their clothes. But I tell you that Solomon, with all his wealth, wasn't as well clothed as one of them. God gives such beauty to everything that grows in the fields, even though it is here today and thrown into a fire tomorrow. He will surely do even more for you. Why do you have such little faith? Don't worry and ask yourselves, will we have anything to eat? Will we have anything to drink? Will we have anything to wear? Only people who don't know God are always worrying about such things. Your Father in heaven knows that you need all these. But more than anything else, put God's work first and do what He wants. Then the other things will be yours as well. Don't worry about tomorrow. It will take care of itself. You have enough to worry about today.
Hello, Journeyers. It's Rick, and I am here with our dear, dear friend Carol Wade. And Carol is going to talk about gratitude. And Carol, you worked with an organization, Truth Be Told, for years and years, and you all worked with women in prison here in Texas and helped them to own and tell their stories and find healing through that. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I think I would add that we guided them through a process where they found out more about themselves and a lot about why they participated in the journey that they were in, and more about what happened to them. Yeah, getting to know their self better and deeper.
Mm-hmm. The worship gathering this Sunday is about gratitude and about giving thanks in the midst of wherever we are. And I wanted you to take a few minutes to talk about lessons maybe that you had learned or things that you had seen about gratitude in the midst of, and maybe things that those women in prison or those situations had illuminated for you about learning about gratitude and thanks and perspective and enough. So I'll let you talk.
Yeah. Well, what just came to me in this moment is about how strong the human spirit is. It's that the things that one can endure through suffering and can come out with a perspective of love and kindness is quite remarkable to me. And I would say that in this moment that is really alive for me. I just learned of one of the women that I still write to, who's been in prison for probably close to 27 years now. And I just learned that she lost one of her sons. And so one of the things, I have so much gratitude for is the freedom that I have, to be able to be with family members in the time of grief and loss and suffering. But what I learned is that is possible to do that even when you're incarcerated, which is quite unbelievable to me. And I do just have one story that I want to tell about that. and I'll just call her C for confidentiality. And I had the classroom was settling in, and everybody was coming in to tell me that C won't be at class today because her dad died this morning. And then just over and over again, the women were telling me C won't be here today. And as we all got settled in, just about to just take a breath, in walks C. And I was just kind of knocked off my foundation, because I was into what would I do if my father died? I would be curled up somewhere in a ball. But in fact, what she said, after I told her how shocked I was she was there, she said, "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." And it's what I have so much gratitude for is the perspective that these amazing women offered me, that what seems impossible and not real, all of those kind of thoughts got shattered, because they showed me again and again how you can live in a colorless, thoughtless environment where kindness is not part of the language. Touch is not an option, because that's you can't do that, which a lot of us are used to now, but they get in really big trouble. They get punished for some of the things that we might just do, simply like touching someone.
Mhm.
So, but they showed me that again and again, the things that I think that I had to have, to show about how I care about someone, or to be a good listener, or what I thought I would do if some kind of tragedy struck in my life. They showed me the resilience of faith. And
Mhm.
they have faith. And the woman that I just was telling you about, C, who lost her dad exactly 1 year later, or within a week or so, her mother died that morning. And where did she come? But to class. So she lost both her parents in a year's time. And what her motto and her faith was, "I'm just one day closer to going home." That's what keeps her going. And it's her faith is in, I'm just one day closer to going home. But for the time being, I'm here. And she offers sign language and mentors people. And so what I found is they taught me how to be stronger. They taught me how to be more resilient. They taught me how to be more courageous. They taught me how to forgive myself and others. I truly learned. I had so many life lessons in my years of going in to be with women who are incarcerated. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Carol. That's powerful. That speaks to me, and I know to the folks who will be watching this and being part of this gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you as you go about your work today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, dear.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, India. Thank you, Terror. Thank you, Disillusionment.
Good morning. I'm Nathalie, and I'm a journeyer. This is a part of Jesus' teachings to his followers in the Gospel of Luke. Do not worry about your life, what you are going to eat. Do not worry about your body, what you're going to wear. Life is worth more than food. The body is worth more than clothes. Look at the birds. They don't plant seeds. They don't gather grain. Yet God feeds them. Don't you think God cares about you at least as much as God cares about birds? Which of you can make yourself a little taller by obsessing about it? If you can't control even something that unimportant? Why do you spend time worrying about other things? Think about how flowers grow. They don't work on a loom to make cloth. Yet even King Solomon, in all of his glory, was not dressed as well as even one of these flowers. God puts these clothes on grass in the field. How much more would God want to give you clothing? Why do we have so little trust? Don't give so much anxious attention to what you will eat or drink or wear or control. Do not be worried about it. You're like people all around the world hurrying after these temporary things. Our Heavenly Parent knows everything we need. And God is already giving you what you need. Do you not see that?
I want to thank you, Lord, for my blessings, for everything.
Hi, Journeyers. February 2021. It's funny, nobody forgets now to, you know how in the, usually that first month or so when it's a new year, you keep writing the date of the year that you just came from. Nobody's doing that. Everybody knows it's 2021. It has been a year still going on, still pandemic, still economic hardship, still can't go to my favorite restaurant, still can't be in connection with the people that we love except through weird things like this, like Zoom or whatever, text, FaceTime. In a way, you know, it's sort of winnowing out the things that matter and the things that don't matter because we have to choose what we do and don't do. And in a way, it is bringing all of us, I think it happened to our culture overall, it's bringing all of us into a place of reflection about what we are thankful for, what we value, what we want to jettison, what we don't believe in, what we don't love. This principle of giving thanks, of being grateful, of acting out of gratitude is a path that is something that Jesus talks about a lot, and all the great spiritual traditions talk about a lot. And it's this idea that I see a larger reality than just the circumstances that I'm in at the moment. God says to the Israelites, I'm going to give you many names to call me, and you're going to call me many names, but the one that I'm going to use over and over and over is, I am the God who brought you out of slavery in Egypt. I'm the God who destroyed the things that were trying to kill you. I'm the God who fed you, as we said, a couple weeks ago, who fed you mysterious, weird food in the desert that you didn't plant, that you didn't harvest, except that you gathered it up in the morning and you had manna, which just means I don't know. That I made water come out of a rock, that I spent a whole generation of people, 40 years, symbolically 40 years. 40 always symbolizes in the scriptures a huge passage from one age to another, from one reality to another, from one generation to another, from one way of being to another, a dying and rebirth. I was with you and brought you through a dying and rebirth so that you quit being slaves in Egypt and became free people. I am the God who brought you out of slavery in Egypt. And when you go into the promised land, you're going to forget. You're going to forget to be grateful because you're going to be satisfied and you're going to be full, and you get lazy and you worship the gods who give you the goodies. I'm the God who was with you in the time of terror and loss and uncertainty and you not knowing what's happening. I am retiring this spring from being a parish minister, a pastoral role. And I feel really sad about that, and I feel happy about it at the same time. I'm looking forward to new possibilities for what God can do with me and the gifts that I have. And I also feel really, really sad to be leaving Journey because of all of the things that Journey has taught me and all of the friendships and the love and the things that you and I have experienced together. I could be in a place where I say, I'm not happy right now. I'm in pain right now. I don't know what's going to happen right now because, by the way, I don't have a job. I don't have a plan. I'm working with a couple of online opportunities to teach, but that's not a thing. It's a big leap of faith. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared. And I don't have it all figured out. And the scriptures make it clear that God is always the God who is with us when we don't have it figured out, when we don't know what's going on, when we don't have it handled, and we feel afraid. We feel angry because we're afraid. We want to lash out because we're afraid. At the shepherd meeting this last week, one of the things that Reverend Laurel Dixon brought up, and a couple of us kind of talked about, your shepherds talked about, is that Journey has to do some grieving because we're going through a loss. I'm grieving. Christina and I are grieving as we leave Austin because we've moved to Santa Fe, and we leave Journey, which is a huge part of both of our lives. It's part of how we met. It's a part of, I gave myself to Journey for 16 and a half years. It's a huge loss. And Laurel and Reverend Gail Evers and others talked about the importance of being willing to just be in a transition slowly and pay attention and grieve and then dream dreams and allow new possibilities. All of that is connected to the larger idea that God is the God who brings us out of slavery and finds freedom for us. And by the way, that really is an inward process, right? Not only the nation of Israel, the Israelites, but also within each of us. There is this idea that God is bringing us out of what enslaves us and into what finds us in a place of freedom, of openness, of possibility that we didn't know about, that we didn't see before, whatever. The thing that Jesus says, building on this idea that God is the God who brings us out of slavery and into freedom, is Jesus says the idea here is to show up in a specific belief, which you heard Nathalie read about, which is that God is the loving parent who gives us what we need. I mean, Jesus's prayer, his sort of central prayer for his students, as you know, has this moment in it where he says, give us today what we need for today. And we are terrible at that, right? We want the plan. We need to know what's going to happen because we are so afraid. By the way, things will happen. Things do happen, like in Finding Nemo, sorry. Little Nemo's a old comic strip. Finding Nemo, where, the dad says, I won't promise, Nemo nothing. I wouldn't let anything happen to him. And Dory says, that's kind of a weird thing to promise, isn't it? If nothing ever happens, then how can anything ever happen? How can you grow? How can you discover anything? Yeah, but I don't want anybody to feel any pain. The Buddha said that life is suffering. And when you accept that life is suffering, that suffering is a deep part of what it means to be human, you become free. When you accept that life is suffering, that life has pain in it everywhere, that we are all dying, that we are all moving toward loss all the time, then we become free. Because we're not holding on to things being a certain way, that I have to have them or else I will feel pain, or I will feel fear, or I will feel uncertain, or whatever. Jesus talks about death all the time in the teachings that are recorded in the Gospels. And the church kind of turned that into, he's only really talking about himself and the transactional atonement formula. I don't think that's right at all. I think that's a complete misreading. I think that's a doctrinal application to what Jesus must have been talking about. You know, he's a farm guy, he's a poor guy, and he lives in an occupied country that is oppressed by a violent empire that publicly executes people in horribly violent, bloody ways as a deterrent to causing trouble. Jesus and his people know everything about the suffering that comes every day from living in a dangerous world. And he also knows, because he lives in a rural society, about seasons and cycles and everything moving in time through its processes. He talks about death a lot, but when he talks about death, he talks about the idea that, like, for instance, unless a grain of wheat goes into the ground and appears to die, it cannot come up and produce a plant that feeds people. Things have to be allowed to die. Things have to be allowed to pass. Somebody comes up and says, Jesus, I'll follow you, but I've got to handle business at home. I've got some estate stuff to handle, and I've got so I'd like to follow you, but I've got my thing I've got to do, my father's estate, blah, 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 to which Jesus says, and I've seen people sort of interpret this as him scolding this person. I don't think he's scolding this person. I think it's simply a mirror back to this person where he says, do you know what? Okay, you have to follow me. If you do want to follow me, let the dead bury the dead, and you come be alive. Let things that want to be in the past, or want to be stuck, or want to be about trying to manage everything, just let them stay that way. That's not how to move forward into life. And Jesus says in Matthew, as you saw the cartoonist doing on the whiteboard, I think, and also in Luke 12, which is what Nathalie read, that our problem is that we are anxious and we are holding on to things and plans and what we will eat and what we will drink and what we will wear and what our 401k will be like and what kind of car we get to have and when we will get to eat in our favorite restaurant. And all of that is because we are attached to things not changing and not giving us pain. But God is the God who leads us and moves us. Like, that's what how God self-identifies for Moses and the children of Israel 1400 years before Jesus. God is the God who moves us, and things die so that new things can be born. Jesus says, here's the thing. God sends rain to nourish the earth. In a desert country, rain is good. You know, we think of rain as being, it's a rainy day, I got the blues, I'm sad. Jesus says God has the sun shine on whoever you think is good and whoever you think is bad. And God has the rain fall and nourish and feed the crops and bring water into the water table and make it so that your wells will have water in them. And that happens to the people that you think are good and the people that you think are bad, and the plans that you think are good and the plans that you think are bad, and the things that you want to have happen and the things you don't want to have happen. Either way, God is present in all of that. What, don't you think that God loves you and cares about you? What father or mother, if your child came and said, "Could I have some bread?" would give their child a rock? What parent, if their child came and said, "May I have a fish for dinner?" would give their child a living snake to bite them? If a human parent would not do that, why do you think a heavenly parent would do that to you? That is what you are. You are beloved by the whole universe that is looking after you. Yeah, but things are crappy, and I'm unhappy, and I'm hurting, and I'm in pain. Do you not know what your pain has taught you? Do you not know what your loss has taught you? Do you not get that? The path of Journey in Perfect Faith community has been full of beauty, and it has also had pain and suffering in it. Loss, like any other thing. Every relationship you've ever had, every plan you've ever followed, every job you've ever had, anything that you've ever experienced has suffering in it and joy in it. And if it never had a joy in it, at least there are lessons that come from it that lead you from one place to another. If you are willing to move, if you're willing to be open, if you're willing to let things not just be how in this moment you have decided they have to be, or else you won't be happy. What would it be like every day to say to God, "I'm just going to see where you are, and I'm going to be open, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to be present as much as I can, and please help me"? What would it be like to say, "God, I may not be happy right now, and I may be suffering right now, and I may be sick right now. I may have somebody in my life who is sick or who is dying right now. I may be unemployed right now. I may be in great loss right now. But I'm going to choose to find gratitude because I believe that you are a loving parent who is not giving me a stone when I ask for bread, even if what I have in front of me looks like a stone. I'm going to believe that you are the God who is leading me out of one place into another. And I'm not going to stay in the place of death and slavery and ingratitude. I'm going to look for the possibility that good is present regardless of how I feel or what I can see. That's a tall order, and it's great. It's beautiful. It leads to less anxiety, less attachment, and creates the possibility for me to be present and see things and respond to things that I didn't know were there. I invite you into that, brothers and sisters, into that place of being willing to move and willing to thank. Love.
Oh, it's a beautiful night in this neighborhood. So many people have helped me to come to this night. Some of you are here, some are far away, some are even in heaven. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. You know, they're the kind of people television does well to offer our world. Special thanks to my family and friends, and to my co-workers in public broadcasting, family communications, and this academy for encouraging me, allowing me all these years to be your neighbor. May God be with you. Thank you very much.
So many people have asked me, do you ever get mad? And of course I answer, well, yes, everyone gets mad sometimes. The important thing is what we do with the mad that we feel in life. A few weeks ago, on my way home from a particularly tough day at work, I stopped to see my 2 grandsons. Their mom and dad weren't there, but the boys were there with the babysitter in the backyard, squirting water with hoses. I could see that they were really having fun. But I felt I needed to let them know that I didn't want to be squirted. So I told them so. And little by little, I could feel that the older boy, Alexander, was testing the limit until finally his hose was squirting very close to where I was standing. I said to him in my harshest voice, "Okay, that's it, Alexander. Turn off the water. You've had it." He did as I told him, said he was sorry, and looked very sad. The more I thought about it, the sadder I got. I realized that Alexander had not squirted me, and that I had stepped into his and his brother's play with a lot of feelings left over from work. So when I got home, I just called Alexander on the phone. I told him I felt awful about my visit with him. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I was taking out my anger from work on him. I told him I was really sorry. Do you know how he answered me? He said, "Oh, Bubba," he calls me Bubba. "Oh, Bubba, everybody makes mistakes sometimes." I nearly cried. I was so touched by his naturally generous heart. And I realized that if I hadn't called him, I might not have ever received that wonderful gift of Alexander's sweet forgiveness.
I want everybody to get up off your seat and get your arms